headaches aren't normal. We weren't designed to live with headaches our entire life. In fact, maybe you are one of those individuals that suffers with headaches on a regular basis, 2, 3, 4 times a week. Maybe it's during that time of the month. Maybe it's when there's additional stresses that come into your life. Maybe you have a friend or a loved one who's one of those individuals that you see suffering with headaches. Well, I'm here to tell you that no, they're not normal. In fact, when you look in the mirror and you feel like this, or you see one of your friends and neighbors and loved ones looking like this, well, I'm going to tell you this video is for you. We're going to talk about the hope that we have in better understanding a little bit more about headaches and why they happen. In fact, my desire is that if in fact you personally suffer from headaches, well, it's going to give you hope to understand that you don't have to anymore. And maybe you're going to be the person who also shares this information with others to help somebody else out that you know suffers from headaches. 45 million Americans, approximately 16.5% of the US population suffers with headaches on a regular basis. Just think about that number, 45 million Americans. And let's understand that, as we talk about that huge number, most Americans, the way they treat their headache is with a pill, a shot, an injection. Something that's artificial, something that's not natural. That's how they're treating it. The estimate is that only 10% of Americans are presently under chiropractic care. I know that sounds like such a low number, but I believe it to be true. And in fact, that means that 90% of Americans are reaching towards those drugs and medications in order to stop the hurt. Listen, you don't need for me to tell you that in the end, those drugs, the medications, the injections, they all have side effects. They all have something that they bring to the table, well, that's going to leave a little scar behind. And whether we experience that today or it takes an accumulation over time in order to produce the damage will come. And we're going to have another problem to deal with. For those of you that this is the first time watching, I'm Dr. Joseph Baker from the Limerick Chiropractic Center. For those of you that are practice members and this is part of your care in our office, welcome. I'm going to ask you to do 3 things. Number 1, make sure that you like this video. It gives the community a greater opportunity of getting exposed to this great information. Number 2, I want to hear your comment. What types of headaches do you normally get? Who do you know that has headaches? If there's something remarkable that we covered today, well, I want to hear about it. I want you to leave me a note. When you leave those comments, I get to see them personally and we get to engage in more of that conversation. The third thing is simply to share this information amongst your Facebook friends. By doing so, I don't know how far reaching it's going to be in their life, but I know that at least they have the opportunity of playing and listening to the information and gaining knowledge because of it. That knowledge gives us power over our problems. Like the simple fact that there's so many different types of headaches. The thought of trying to cover all the different types of headaches in a 10 or a 15-minute time span is just not going to happen. In fact, a list of some of those headaches are here. In fact, and in turn, there's numerous different subcategories of types of headaches. One of the ways that we have of looking at headaches happens to be by the pain pattern, which is one of the ways of identifying whether it's a TMJ type of headache, a sinus headache, a tension type of headache. Sometimes people talk about migraines and clusters or a neck or cervalgia type of headache. Yes, they do have different pain patterns. They have that same or main heading, which is headache, which means pain in the head, but there's different causes, there's different reasons. In fact, maybe that's going to be your biggest takeaway from the conversation today, is understanding that there's different reasons for these headaches to present themselves. And even though we might have bones out of place that create irritation to the nerves, maybe it is that we had, too much of a food or a drink, which provokes the body to become more toxic and reactive. I don't know. But what I do know is that our innate intelligence gives us signals to help us understand if in fact we need to address things. If in fact we need to have that warning sign so that we stop doing the bad things that are producing damage. Now granted, listen, when we get these signs and signals like these pain patterns, well, most of us already know, well, that problem has been going on for quite some time. And to me, one of the biggest things with chiropractic is not the fixing and correcting. Oh, it's the maintenance. Because maintenance is that thing that prevents us from having to experience those warning signs. It eliminates that possibility of crisis because we're protecting ourselves, constantly working on the system to provoke it to function at that optimal level. Now, does it mean that these headaches are never going to happen? Oh, no. It just means that the likelihood is remote at best when we're doing those most right things and supporting the system the way it's supposed to. In fact, if you've never been checked, guess what? That's the most right thing to be doing when we're talking about headaches. So many individuals I run into when I'm out and about in the community, when I'm sitting there at, having lunch, when I'm at networking meetings, the conversation is generally the same. Oh, you're a chiropractor. You know what? I suffer from these headaches. Can you help me? Or what do you think I need to do? Well, let me tell you, just like we would if in fact we were auto mechanics and somebody brought their car in for us to look at it and figure out what was wrong because it wasn't running the way it was supposed to. Well, first things first, we would make sure that we open the hood and get it checked. Would you ever stick around at a mechanic shop if he put his hand on the hood of your car and just simply said, you know what, I think you need a new catalytic converter, maybe a new transmission, and he never opened the hood? Well, you'd be looking at him and say, thank you very much, take your keys and drive away and find somebody else. See, the problem is that there are hundreds of different reasons for you and I to experience that body signal. And we can interchange the body signal with a headache or a low back pain or stomach or allergies. There are hundreds of different reasons for those signals to be present. The very first thing that we have to do is seek to understand. And that's why in our office, we do two very simple tests right away. One is a posture check because it happens to be that window into your spine and your nervous system. And then the second is palpation, where we as chiropractors are feeling the spine for how these bones are positioned, how they are moving or not moving properly. On this x-ray, the very first thing that we do is we start to analyze. We test the system. We know what the normal is supposed to be like. We know where your head is supposed to be positioned. We know the amount of curve that's supposed to be in this neck of yours, that 45 to 60 degrees. We want to make sure that very top vertebrae, the atlas, is pointing up in the air 20 to 25 degrees. Those things that we know. We're going to look towards those measurements to help us understand if in fact our system has been set up mechanically to function the way it's supposed to. And just like your car, listen, if your tires are out of alignment, they're not going to allow the vehicle to move as smoothly as it's supposed to. In fact, as you use it more and more and run it harder and faster, well, those little imperfections are going to become more noticeable over time. Likewise with you and I, when we have bones out of place called subluxations, well, listen, when they first get started, maybe you don't get a signal. Maybe we just see your posture being changed or the motion in those joints not happening the way they're supposed to. But over time, as it continues to wear down those joints, all of a sudden you hear a little grinding sensation, some crackling in your neck. Maybe when you turn your head, you can't turn it as far to one side as the other, or when you look up or down, you feel that little twinge of pain. See, all of these things happen when the body isn't allowed to function the way it's supposed to, and it's been that way for a longer period of time. And yes, if we don't listen to our body when it talks to us, well, we're definitely going to listen once it starts screaming at us. See, only 10% of your nervous system can even transmit a pain signal. So if in fact you ignore those little warning signs long enough, oh, it'll scream at you. It'll stop you. In fact, sooner or later, the aspirin, the Advil, the Tylenol, the Motrins, and ibuprofens, they're not going to work anymore. And you have to continue to increase the intensity, which means that all of a sudden, maybe it is that your stomach starts to get irritated. Maybe it is that your intestines are being affected or your blood pressure. We realize that over time, there's numerous side effects that could happen from just trying to sweep these things under the rug. And it's not okay. You don't have to live through making your problems worse over time. In fact, we talked about there's going to be 3 very simple, very easy steps for you to help yourself. Number 1, pause. Just get checked. Listen, you have a chiropractor in your backyard. Maybe if you're watching this video from a different part of the country or in some other area in Pennsylvania, well, guess what? If you need a referral, let me know. Leave me a comment down below. We'll make sure that if in fact you're not geographically located by us, that we make sure that you get the opportunity of getting connected with somebody in your community that might be one of those better choice places. Number 2, learn about your choices. In life, we have choices to make that will affect how it is our body functions. And there are numerous choices that you need to be aware of. Some of the things that chiropractors talk to their patients about, well, oftentimes, because generally speaking, medical doctors don't review these type of things, it might be the first time that you hear some of those holistic ways of addressing your problems. Some of those simple ways of just simply taking that and pushing it to the side so that your body can function easier and better. Now, the third component, wherever you are, you need to be consistent with your changes. Yes, healing takes time. And the consistency in your engagement is going to be fruitful as you move forward because of the momentum that you gain. What an awesome thing that over time, as you repeat those simple processes, your body will gain more and more momentum. So really the question is going to be, what are you going to be doing? What's that one thing that you're going to take away from this video, from this conversation, that maybe you're going to do to help yourself, to help somebody else out? Leave me a comment in the section below. I'm Dr. Joseph Baker from the Limerick Chiropractic Center.